DJI Mavic 4 Pro, new update. Got that coming up next. Bill, drone reviewer here. Like the content of this video or anything on my channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any future content. With that, let's begin. The other night, I hosted Rotor Talk Live and was joined by Mr. Ron Braun. We spent the better part of the evening discussing all the latest regarding a new update regarding the DJI Mavic 4 Pro. So without any further ado, let's roll that clip in its entirety. We got a lot to talk about with the Mavic 4 Pro because there's been several articles here.
And did you see Drone DJ put out, not an article, they just put out a survey today for when you think the Mavic 4 Pro is coming, March, April, or May, and April is leading the voting so far.
Well, I would not be surprised, and let's see if we can bring that up here. But you know, well, as we're getting into that, I do want to spend a minute or two on the Air 4 because you know that's still rumored to be in the works. Jasper Allen shared an image of what he assures us is a DJI Air 4. Yes, we know we're just a handful of months out from the release of the Air 3S, the upgraded version, but the same body as the Air 3, which came out in July 2023. Is it too soon to even believe any leaks could refer to an Air 4 being in the works? Well, like most tech companies, DJI is constantly working on new products years in advance of their release. I mean, the research and development for new products does require time to be completed. The early image of a crash test unit could be just that, as Ellen states. Okay, the 3 top sensors and 0 rear sensors make me think the body of the Air 4 will be similar to that of the Mini 4 Pro and Mavic 4 Pro drones. This would place the rear of the drone's body below the rear propellers, improving airflow and giving top 3 sensors a view of what is behind the drone. This would make sense if the final Air 4 product does not feature rear-facing obstacle avoidance sensors. Ellens points out that we shouldn't expect the final product until late this year. By that point, the Air 3 would be 2.5 years old. That's pretty old in tech years. By that point, an overall refresh of the drone's design makes sense. So that's what we have for that. I mean, it's some food for thought, and I think combining that with this bill or that what we had just talked about, you know, as far as a security agency doing a risk assessment of Chinese drones, you know, that's probably coming into play, and I think that's why DJI is accelerating this pipeline, Ron.
So maybe I should, you know, wait on the Mavic 4 Pro and check out what the Air 4 has to offer.
You know, that's completely your call. For me though, you know,
I mean, you never know what to do now because you never know when the next thing's coming and what it may have, because you know, you said, well, you know, the Mavic, the Mavic 4 Pro is going to be the bee's knees, but what if the Air 4 comes out and it's got OcuSync 5 in it or something that the 4 Pro didn't have?
That's true. And, you know, the other thing I'm thinking too, and we're going to talk about this here in a minute, you know, it might have that new controller that we're talking about here. Now, this was a great article on Drone DJ. 5 DJI Mavic 4 Pro rumors we're excited for. First one says 95 watt hour battery size. What's it without a bump in the battery specs? Pro leaks, we've seen the new drone might have a massive battery increase from 77 to 95.3. This is just slightly below the 99.5 limits of Matrice 4 saw. It's also below the FAA unrestricted limit to bring on an aircraft, which is 100 watt hours. That paired with a newly designed body like the Mini 4 Pro, which increases both flight time and obstacle avoidance performance, could shatter the current max flight time of 43 minutes, which it would. Okay.
But Bill, next hurricane, you may be able to charge your house off that battery for a couple of hours. That's
very true. Okay. And I'm thinking, realistically speaking, I think what the specs would probably list it as 50 minutes. I think it would probably hit that ballpark. Okay. Just 10 minutes short of an hour in terms of runtime.
Wow.
Now they also talk about increased internal storage. The Air 3S increased the internal storage from the standard 8 gigabyte to more usable 43 gigabytes. Well, that's not what you might have in a dedicated micro SD card. It's much better than just need a little extra space. Leaks have stated an increase in internal storage is coming with the new Mavic 4 Pro on the Cine lineup, a potential doubling of up to 2 terabytes of internal storage for all that ProRes goodness. On the Pro side, I'd expect at least a match with the Air 3S, but personally, I'd like to see 64 gigabytes. An increase like that make the need for micro SD cards a thing of the past for small jobs, which is really nice.
Yeah, that's a great statement. Yeah, 64 would be like, perfect, because I'm I mean, if you go on a vacation, you may want to put the memory card in there because you may want to back all that video for a week, 2 weeks when you're away. But just going out doing a job or a day shoot or whatever, 64, just bring it home. And the Air series is so good. You just connect it to your computer. You don't even have to turn a drone on. It just acts like a internal hard drive. You plug it in the computer, suck the data in or whatever, and then reformat the drone next time you fly it.
And you're good to go. And you're done. Yeah. And you've downloaded your video. More practical zoom lenses. What used to be separate drones like the Mavic 2 and Mavic 2 Pro have now become one. The Mavic 3 pioneered the multi-camera drone system, feature only DJI still has in consumer drones. What you find on the Mavic 3 Pro is a 3x and 7x zoom alongside the M4 3rd Hasselblad main camera. If leaks are true, we'll potentially see 2 new focal lengths for the Mavic 4 Pro, 5x and 50 millimeter equivalent, and 6x 145 millimeter equivalent. If you've ever been a part-time photographer or videographer, that 50 millimeter focal length should have gotten you excited. A standard for most films and portraits coming into the sky would make for some phenomenal shots to be shared, while also keeping consistency with potential ground cameras. That's incredible, Ron.
Yeah, the 50 millimeter lens is basically a photographer's. That like the first camera I really bought, was a Canon 81. It came with we call it fast 50, stock 50. A lot of cameras in the old days shipped with that stock lenses at 50. So a lot of us old photographers are used to that focal range. So I'm happy to see that. And you understood what they were saying before. Instead of having that 7x zoom, which was almost too much zoom or whatever, they're going to back it off to a 6. And maybe with that 6, they'll be able to add a little more quality to it, whatever. And plus, they haven't. If it wasn't this article, it's another one. It's even rumors that all 3 of these cameras will be variable apertures and not just the main wide angle one, which is currently the situation.
Exactly.
So I mean, that would be a dream, getting all of them in with especially getting the 50 with the variable aperture.
Oh yeah. Now the other thing that I really like, and they talk about this next, internal ND filters. Okay,
right.
And that's one of the things. And I for me, if I'm using an ND filter and I don't use them a lot, I put them on at home before I go out, because if I'm out in the field and I'm doing it, chances are real good that's it's gonna fall off, or chances are real good I'm gonna drop it and I could scratch it and all kind of bad.
And then you get on there and then you forget to wipe the fingerprints off when you take off or whatever, and then you got smudge on there. So yeah, I agree. If you know it's going to be a bright sunny day, just put your ND on before you even go out there.
Yeah, and this is so nice to be able to have this feature and to be able to change it like that. Now, I don't know.
And I think it even mentioned that maybe it had graduated ND filters too, but I may be getting that confused. But no, Bill, I agree. This is a great feature, and the digital ND filters built in, plus the fact that you can control the aperture, will really allow you to dial in your shutter speed like never before.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You'll have so much more control over this camera, and it's going to be what I'll call, it really will be a prosumer type of drone.
And drones is playing catch up here. This, a lot of, high end cameras have had this built in for a few years now, Bill.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And here we are. We're finally getting to that point with drones. And I think it's absolutely fantastic. Now, it also talks about better low light capability. What two worlds will make all the drone photographers scream in excitement: variable aperture. Okay. It's rumored that all the Mavic 4 Pro's cameras will feature an f2.0 aperture, allowing for better performance in those twilight hours. What is one more step that would make that feature even better? All 3 of those cameras also have a variable aperture, like the Mavic 3's main camera. So, wow.
Yeah, just for reference, I think the Mavic 3 all Mavic 3s, whether Pro, Classic. I think that that main camera is either 2.4 or 2.8 aperture. So this will be, a much wider aperture. That there, if that 2.0 is true, and of course, better in low light. But of course, that nobody ever says the downside is more need for filters than bright light, though. When you do that,
That's very true. That's very
true. Like if you never ever intend to shoot at low light or night or whatever, that's kind of a con, really, that they put that wider aperture.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. But I think if you buy a drone like this and you're going to spend, if you're going to break the piggy bank to spend that kind of money for this, Ron, I think you're very serious about videography, photography, and I think for example, for me, I love sunsets, I love sunrises, type of thing. Okay,
Perfect.
and that's where I would like to use that, because I think in getting just that in that twilight hour. Still where it's still between, dark and light, and being able to get some those features, that's going to be fantastic.
I wonder. I know some of the camera has this, but I wonder if they're even smart ND filters. Well, they'll know which one needs to come on, judging by how high your shutter is and all that.
I was just going to say that, Ron.
Now with manual override, of course, I want manual override to pick what I want. But if you don't want to control it, I hope it has an auto feature in there that just picks the one it thinks it needs.
That's exactly what I was just getting ready to say that, Ron. I'm hoping that it will automatically detect and be able to say, we're gonna slap this ND filter on right now.
What I think has that? The GoPro Hero 13. It has that new thing with the it never with they had their own ND filters, and I think it even picks the if you let it, if you don't stop it, it picks the right. If you put the ND filter, it picks the right setting for you.
That's fantastic. Okay, and that's I really think that if DJI has gone to the step of having these internal ND filters, I can bet you can almost rest assured that they're going to have it's going to have that feature where it will automatically put the right ND filter out there for you with your settings. I think it will do that. I think it's one of those things that Marcus says. It's one of those things that you didn't think that you wanted until you actually see it. And I think that's what DJI is going to do.
In this case, you didn't even know this is possible until you actually saw it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Even though, again, it's in some other high-end cameras out there, but it's not common.
Yeah. Absolutely. Here.
But it makes perfect sense for our community. A lot of drone flyers weren't photographers beforehand, so a lot of fooling around with ND filters is still a little bit of what would you call a little bit like voodoo to a lot of these people. Not making a lot of sense.
Okay, and I brought up that poll right here. When is the Mavic 4 Pro coming? And it looks right now. There's just early number of votes, but people are thinking April here. So, and I would have a tendency to agree. I think that gives them enough time. What I'm thinking here is what we saw, and we're going to have these pictures coming up. I think these are units that are going to be shipped out to our beta testers. Okay,
Yeah, I think they actually have now, but
they could be having them now, but I think that's why I think
April, there'll be a lot of tax refunds around by April too, right, Bill?
Yeah, that's coming up. That's coming up for us. I spent all day last Saturday getting receipts ready for paying taxes for next weekend. That's all I did last Saturday, was sat here printing off receipts for everything for last year. So so that's all lined up. So that's in a folder, because I got yelled at, because Valerie and I sit down, we do our taxes together because we file jointly, and I got yelled at one year for not having all these receipts. So that's not happening again.
You got your shoebox out with all your digital receipts, huh?
Yes.
Your digital shoebox.
That's exactly what I did. Now there's this article here from Jasper Ellens, and with a great picture. And this was on Drone DJ here, and it's this picture, and I'm sure probably a lot of you probably have already seen it here, where it shows several of them out there, but also too up front here. They talk about the launch being imminent here, but the other thing that they talk about as well is the RC Pro 2. The presence of the RC Pro 2 controller in the leaked image confirms earlier reports about DJI's new OcuSync 4 Plus transmission system. The controller, featuring a foldable screen design, will be essential for operators, as the Mavic 4 Pro will not maintain backward compatibility with previous generation controllers or batteries. Okay, so and I know that's one thing I think a lot of people will get really sore about, Ron. When that comes out, is that, oh, it's not going to work with the Air 3S, or it's not going to work with the Air 3, or it's not going to work with the Mini 4 Pro. That we'll hear that like big time. But it's you got to look forward. You got to start somewhere, okay? And I think with this is a good starting point. And also too, realize and thinking about that other article that we just saw about the cycle and what's going to be released this year. There's a really good chance that a Mini 5 Pro is coming out, and that Mini 5 Pro is going to be able to be controlled by this.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. We all know by now DJI files no rhyme or reason for what controllers control what, and I wouldn't expect that to change. Going forward. But Bill, scroll back to that picture, that table with the Mavic 4 Pro in the control room for a minute.
Yeah, let me get that up here.
You scroll. You scroll. You're right in the same page. Just got to scroll back up to the top again.
Okay. Get there.
You know what this is? I said this last night. You know what this is reminiscent of, Bill? And you'll remember this. Around before the original Mavic Pro came out, there was a leaked picture. I was sitting on a table, a junky table like this, with a whole bunch of devices, and we didn't think much of anything on that table except for the Mavic Pro at the time. But about within next year, a whole bunch of things got released that were sitting on that table that we had no idea what they were. They looked like just junk on that table, but all that stuff got released in the next year. Because I can't even guess what they all were. It's too long, but they were all little devices that got released, like maybe the Pocket and other things like that. So just take a look at the table real good. The stuff you don't recognize now that may come out. But the picture I'm talking about, Bill, was a famous picture.
Right. Oh, I know exactly what picture you're talking about. I think I still have it somewhere on my hard drive. I remember that. I absolutely remember that.
And all that picture came out, like a couple months before we saw the Mavic Pro. But again, all that stuff and almost everything you saw on that table that day, you didn't know what it was, but it almost all got released.
Well,
about a year.
We have been, and I have been saying for a while that there is going to be an RC Pro too. And I really figured because, the RC Pro, and how long it's been out, and it's still at a pretty good price point. I mean, it's still right around $1,000 if you go out either to DJI or to Amazon. It's still there. It's still pretty much full price. So, and that hasn't really budged. And what that says to me is that that's still a very popular item. People really like that. Okay. And it works well. It really does. It's an exceptional controller here. So, they up the ante with this one, and it's going to be interesting to see the form factor. And they talked about it being foldable. That's interesting. I don't know what that's going to be like. That's, how that's going to work. But I mean, the article talked about it being foldable. I'm just kind of curious about
well, we're going to have foldable. We have kind of foldable phones now, right? So
I mean, my Galaxy folds. So they fold.
Yeah.
So I mean,
just off the, we don't know anything here, but so when this comes out, there'll probably be a base package where it's released as working with the DJI RC-3 now. You think it'll work with that base controller? That'll be package 1, and will it work with an RC2 or the RC3, or you think it'll only work with like a base controller and a smart controller, not the middle smart controller?
Yeah, I think you're probably right on that, Ron. It just,
Well, I mean, I'm not right or wrong. I have, I'm just guessing. I mean, we'll work with. We'll have 3 different controllers that work with 2, 1. I mean, this is always kind of an unknown. Will a smart control be available on day 1? There's.
I think so. I think it's going to be part. I think it's going to be part of a Fly More package. I think you'll have the option to get that. I think what you won't have the option of is just the drone by itself. Okay, I
Right,
think
right.
that won't happen for a while, and I think that's and it's probably one of the more consistent things with
Let me
DJI.
stop you just for a second there. Yeah,
Sure.
about being available on its own. As far as I can remember, the Neo is the only recent DJI release I could think of where the drone was available on its own day one. Am I correct on that, Bill?
What was that, Ron?
As far as I can remember, the only DJI drone in recent memory that was released on day one that you could buy the drone alone was a Neo.
You're right.
I mean, not. I mean, you could not only could you could buy it. It was shipped to you right away. I mean, it wasn't any delay in getting just the drone on day one with the Neo. That's the only time I can remember in recent memory. And you have to go all the way back to the Spark.
Right.
You can buy just the drone
I
only on
remember
day
it.
one.
And I'm thinking, the release of the Mavic Pro, the original Mavic Pro. I'm thinking the Mavic Air. I'm thinking the Spark. I'm thinking, going forward to the Minis, to the Mavic 2 Pro and Zoom, going to the other Mini 3, Mini 4, the Air 2, Air 2S. Yeah, I'm thinking through all of those. Yeah, by itself, that's not that. I think that's one of the rare times that DJI has done that on launch day, have it be available like that. Of course, but also too, remember too, that's one of those ones that could be released by itself.
Right,
without,
right. It didn't need a controller. Right, right.
right. It didn't need the
And the
controller.
Spark did not need a controller either. You could fly it with your hand gestures and stuff.
I almost totally lost it trying to those hand gestures with the Spark. That was just wow. That was not good. And Valerie was like, that doesn't work. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. It really kind of doesn't work with the Spark. That was really
So
frustrating.
just making a point, DJI doesn't really want to sell drones without controllers, and I think that's why they don't let their all their controllers work with a whole bunch of drones, because they really don't want to sell drones without their own kind of locked in controller.
Yeah, that's kind of been something that's been consistent here, and I think too also have to realize now with this Mavic 4 Pro, it's going to have a new OcuSync. I think because it has a new OcuSync, it's going to be one of those ones that you're forced. You don't have a choice. Okay, you're going to have to get that controller. At least the base unit will probably come. With that controller, you're going to be forced to have to get that. I mean, as far as that's concerned, versus being able to buy the drone on a standalone by itself. That's probably not going to happen because of that. Okay. Now, when they come out with, say, a Mini 5 Pro a little later in the year, I'm just hypothetically speaking, you might find at that point that they might release, say, a Mavic 4 Pro with, by itself. You could buy the drone by itself if you wanted included a battery.
Yeah.
So,
even the Flip, which you could fly without a controller, you could fly the Flip just like you can the Neo, but they don't offer the Flip's still not offered without a controller.
That's true.
It's been out. Yeah. How long has the Flip been out now? Like a month?
Yeah, it's been a month.
About the middle of January, and we're almost.
It's about the middle of January. We're right at the middle of February here. Yeah. So I mean, it's about a month that it's been out, and it's been the reaction I think has been okay. I think again, I think a lot of people like me, for example, I didn't even think about it because I know the Mavic 4 Pro is coming out. Okay.
Yeah. We don't even sugarcoat this. I think the Flip among the drone community, I don't mean among the vlogging community and whatever, but among the drone community, it's been the most unpopular DJI release I've seen in a long time.
I agree, Ron. I agree. And I've been out to the forums and looked at some of the groups, and I agree. And the talk consistently has been about the Mavic 4 Pro. I mean, it's been out there because I've gone out to the forums, I've gone out to the groups, and people are talking about it. People really want to see this drone. I mean, it generates a lot of talk, and it generates a lot of excitement. And what I'm hoping for, and I think we all remember when the Mavic 3 came out, what a disaster at launch time with that. Okay. and my gosh, I mean, right away that GPS issue was just front and center. And I'm hoping, and see, that's why I think they're kind of taking their time a little bit in getting it thoroughly vetted and thoroughly tested out. And that's what really kind of boggles my mind, because it goes out to our beta testers. Forgive me for calling Billy and Ken and Rick and everybody beta testers, but it goes out to them. And you would have thought with it going on to them with the Mavic 3 that there wouldn't have been that issue. And it just really kind of boggles the mind that when that came out, it was such a disaster. I mean, it was like right away people had that issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm hoping this time around with the Mavic 4 Pro, when it comes out, that they'll have thoroughly tested that and vetted that. And, right away, that's not going to have that kind of an issue out of the gate.
Was that DJI's worst release ever, the Mavic 3?
Yeah. That initial release for that. Yeah. That was bad, Ron. That really was. I mean, instantaneously out of the box, that thing had an issue with GP. I mean, it was like right away. People noticed that. And it was now by the time
if anybody doesn't know, let's just say it wasn't an issue with GPS like the drone would fly away or get lost. It would just take you maybe 5 minutes, maybe even longer, to lock in your home point. And people get frustrated. They want to take off and fly and just sit in the ground. And if you did take off early, you would take the chance of not having enough satellites and lose a little control. But if you did wait for the home point, after that, it was locked in. It was perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. And what was funny though, Ron, for me, after I got mine, and it really, I don't know why, but I went out and I mean, I didn't do, the firmware update hadn't been out yet, but I go right outside my house. Of course, inside, I fired up inside. I'm not getting anything, but I go outside in my driveway. It was like only less than 2 minutes. And I had like 25 satellites. I was good to go.
Yeah, I mean, 2 minutes was probably, what was my average most of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was about 2, but that's still with any other drone, it was like 30 seconds.
30 seconds, exactly. It's like, when I went out flying this weekend with my Air 3S, it was like, 25, 30 seconds, boom, it's good to go.
Yeah.
As soon as I opened it up, I mean, boom.
So even 2 minutes was long for us. But I mean, but I had situations a lot of people did where it would take a lot longer. I've seen it take 5 minutes before to lock in.
Yeah, I've had that too, and that's really frustrating because you're all set, you're all ready to go, and you're just like, okay, I'm ready to go here, but I don't have the satellites. I mean, yeah. And
I remember being at the South Florida drone meetup the year as it happened, and I went to the meetup. And it was still that long time. But then the firmware update came because I was there for a month. It came in the month of March. I remember Mark Fisher called Captain Ray and I said that the update's here. And we did all the updates. It made it better, a little bit better, but it wasn't until actually almost the end of May that they really fixed it. When they released that firmware update where it was just like any other drone, it got it in 25, 30 seconds. That first fix, it made it better, but it didn't really fix it. Yeah, it helped. Yeah,
it helped, but it wasn't where it needed to be. And I remember that because as soon as they put that fix out, I'm out there and I'm like, and I remember because I'm working from home and I was like, you know what, it came. I'm going to do it at lunchtime and go out and just test it just to see if it can get it. And and I was watching my watch and kind of timing it, and I'm like, it's a little better, but it's not where it needs to be. Okay. It's not, it's one of those, and what I did was at the same time, just for comparison's sake, I had the Mini 4 out and Mini 4 Pro and how long it took. And it was 25, 30 seconds. Boom. It was good to go. So yeah, I was like, yeah. But that's one of the things, like I said, I'm hoping with the Mavic 4 Pro, when it comes out, that we're not going to see anything like that. That it's going to be good from the get go. And
actually, the original Mavic Pro, it didn't have anything as glaring as a satellite issue, but it needed I don't know, a couple months of firmware updates before they really had it flying like it should fly. Yeah.
Other than the the sales and delivery kind of issue with it.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people didn't even have it to know that it didn't need a firmware update. But if you did have it, it definitely took about 6 months before they really got it run right, and the video got better, and
Yeah, it took a while for that, and I know one of the things early on that I noticed with the original was it was it just sometimes, when it was there was plenty of light out there, like during the day, it kind of looked a little shadowy, and I think that was one of the things that I think the firmware update fixed, that I saw, after that happened, I didn't see those shadows anymore, and I was very pleased with that because I noticed that like right away with that, and I'm like, that's not right. That doesn't,
But yet the Mavic 2 Pro was a very solid release.
Yeah, it was. Now that was a good release. Although I have to say, purchasing it, that was very interesting because what I did was, I went to the release over in Brooklyn with DJI, and unlike everybody else who's up in the front row, Ken Donahoe, Billy, Rick Smith, they're on their phones, they're ordering it, okay? And I'm like, I'm recording, I'm spending some, I'm paying attention to what's going on here. So I went back to the hotel room in the afternoon to order it. And boy, oh boy, you talk about they had all kinds of issues on their system with DJI. I was using my debit card. I had money. I was good to go. And it wasn't accepting my debit card for some reason. I called DJI up, and there was just all kind of stuff going on with that. And it took them a while to get it straightened out. But it ended up.
I mean, that was the first time they ever had that much demand on day one for a drone release.
Yeah, that day one of that release. That was crazy. That was just absolutely crazy. And that's what I found out afterwards, because I had gotten a nice email back from DJI explaining to me what went on and what transpired with that. So I'm hopeful here. And the other thing too, it really kind of surprises me what you told me about Al. Now, having an issue with getting it through customs. Are we going to face that with the Mavic 4 Pro, getting that through customs kind of a thing?
And you saw the thing a couple weeks ago where it was a drone DJ or somebody was saying that East Coast states, including New Jersey, won't get shipments from DJI. So, I mean, who will test that, I guess, with the Mavic 4, but I may not be able to get it anyways.
Yeah,
I mean, through DJI, and that means you'll have to wait a little while for Adorama or BH Photo to get a hold of it. And then what they do, Bill, lots of times, they add it like a case and filters and stuff in a package and make the package even more expensive, selling you stuff you don't really need.
Yep.
And also they have some kind of funny packages where they don't have the smart controller, they only have it with the standard controller. So that's not always the best option either, going with the big box camera stores, because you can't get exactly what you want from them sometimes.
And what's a real mystery, and I think I probably answered the question myself, is Best Buy, because they've been lagging behind. And I think what happened is, I think they had too many times when somebody was able to buy the drone ahead of the release, and I think DJI's kind of penalized them for that. And I think that's why you haven't seen now immediately seeing drones available at Best Buy. It's been on a delayed basis. So I know the Neo's available there now. I'm not sure about the Flip, but the Neo is available at Best Buy. Okay. I think it kind of delayed getting drones to them because of that. And Best Buy was a good option because, especially if you're a Total Tech member like I am, you get that automatic extended warranty with it, which is wonderful. That's a nice thing to be able to have that. And then, of course, Amazon, that's really surprised me, Ron, that they have not been included in that, although lately it's been picking up a little bit in terms of what's available out there. But
sometimes it's third-party sellers, and there's a store that it seems like they're an authorized DJI reseller. Who knows? It may be DJI under another name or whatever that has things in there. But yeah, so I may not be getting the Mavic 4 Pro anywhere near release date anyways, because of these shipping issues and so on and whatnot. And speaking of Best Buy, Chris Hope was on our show last night, and Chris said that he was in his local Best Buy, and they had a sign up on the drone counter saying that they cannot sell DJI drones to customers. And Marcus asked him, "You mean were they just displays there?" He said, "No, he saw drones in boxes, but they had a sign up saying they were not allowed to sell DJI drones to the public."
Wow, that's interesting. I don't know if it's has anything to do with the tariffs or anything, but I don't see why.
But like you said, DJI is really not an option anymore, Bill.
Yeah, yeah, that's just and because I know there were slim pickings. I went to my Best Buy and looked in the case. There were only like 2 or 3 DJI drones in the case at Best Buy. So
Yeah. So basically, picking up a DJI drone in a brick and mortar store really doesn't exist anymore in the U.S., right?
yeah, you don't really have that option. Well, remember, and I'll go back maybe about a year or so ago when we didn't have the talk of the ban and everything. They used to be DJI did learn their lesson after the original Mavic Pro, and they had built distribution centers like in Chicago, Atlanta, up in New Jersey, around your neck of the woods, and made it easier distribution points, for most of the United States. And when they got their shipments in through California on the West Coast, they would ship quantities to those distribution points. So when a drone would be released, they would have availability. There wouldn't be any issue because mine would almost always come from Atlanta. I mean, almost all the time up until within the past year or so. Whenever I ordered it, it was like within a day or two and it came through Atlanta. I mean, you would see the return address on there.
And Bill, you may not remember this, but remember when the Mavic Pro first came out, it was only sold, in brick and mortar, it was only sold in the Apple store for like the first few days.
I do remember that.
You get the Mavic Pro for the first couple of days, the first week or whatever, in a brick and mortar was the Apple store. They bought the exclusive rights for a week or less.
Well, I was very fortunate because I didn't get in when the shenanigans started in October. I did, however, because I had just sold my Autel X-Star Premium in December. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't ready to buy a drone until January. And in January I checked and lo and behold, it was there. It was available. I put my card in and boom, I ordered it. And it was there next day. I had next day delivery on it, which was
which drone was this?
What's that? The original Mavic Pro.
Mavic Pro, yeah.
No, I didn't order that till January. No, I know a lot of people had ordered it in October, and they probably didn't get theirs till December, or some even in January, and left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths.
Yeah, some people even claimed it was like 6 months or whatever until they got it.
One other thing I want to touch on, and I know Captain Ray asked too, has been a price point, and I know I've gotten a lot of questions on my videos that I put out about the Mavic 4 Pro is what people think a price point is going to be on this. Now, by itself, Ron, I think you're probably going to look at least a $300 or $400 bump over the price of the Mavic 3 Pro. Where the Mavic 3 Pro is around $2,200. I'm going to say the drone by itself is probably going to be anywhere $2,500, $2,600.
Well, Mike Wright's saying in chat here, 2,800 base, and that's been the rumor for the past couple of weeks out on Twitter that 28 is going to be the starting price, and by base we pretty much mean drone, RC-N3 type controller, and one battery.
One battery, right. That's a good point, and that's figuring that the base on the Mavic 3 Pro was about $2,200, $2,300. $500 bump in that makes sense. That really
and
does.
Like Mike also says here, possibly additional 25% tax for what do you call that, tariff type tax.
Right. So,
and we don't know how much of that DJI will eat, if any at all.
That's true. That's very true. I mean, we don't know. And then the whole thing again, talking about coming in through customs and all that, and just what a mess that is.
But will you ever get it? I mean, DJI is good at. Don't worry, people. You're not going to lose your money if you order and don't get it, but DJI will refund you. But still, now you've wasted that week, 10 days, or whatever, fooling around with the customs not sending your drone.
Well, I think I told you, when I got my replacement Air 3Ss, the 2 replacements I got came from Canada.
Yeah, I guess somehow they could do that with replacements, but
yeah.
So it's the launch will be interesting for the final specs and all and pricing, but then even gets more interesting after that when we come to shipping, of course. So yeah, so let's hope this release goes as well as the Super Bowl did for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Question of the day: what do you think of DJI Mavic 4 Pro new update? Let me know in the comment section below. Thanks so much for watching, and remember, it's a great day to fly.